Well, hello and welcome back to Gearhead Geeks, where in this video we are going to do something a little different. Well, not too much different, but we are going to be taking and restoring an engine that used to be in one of my old race bikes that I made a street tracker out of, but the original engine is an F11M, and that is a pretty rare engine. So what we're going to do here is, one of the things that's happened is I put away this engine for a long time and I had it all wrapped up, and the weather got, whatever was I wrapped it with got torn away and it left it in pretty rough shape. So we're going to bring it back to life, and I don't know what we'll do with it. We may put it in something, who knows. But anyway, so we'll take a look at it and see what we're going to need. One of the problems is I took it apart and I didn't do a very good job of keeping all the parts in one place. They're kind of scattered around, and it's been through about 2 or 3 moves actually. And so trying to find the parts is going to be fun. I don't throw anything away, so I should have them. So anyway, we'll get to that, and we'll take a tour around the engine and see what the deal is. Okay, so let's take a quick look around this engine and see what we've got. And here we are. So this is an F11M. The cases are actually sand cast. The cylinder head and cylinder are also sand cast. They only made a few of them. As you can see, it's kind of funky in here. The carburetor, although the good part about Nevada, it is not really all that terrible on things, but you can see the weather did get to it. It's a little crusty, and there's some leaves and stuff on it. We'll clean it all up. I just kind of brought it inside and stuck it on this to get an idea what it is. Again, this is sand cast, and as you see, that the polish actually stayed pretty good. I had these cases, I polished up these cases, but we got a little bit of rust. And then on here, what I did is I set this up for a right-hand shift. Flat trackers work better with a right-hand shift. So this is set up with the right-hand shift. I did not spline this side yet, so we're going to figure out what it's going to take to do that, because I think I want splines on both sides. Let's see what else. We'll look at the ignition underneath this. I got to find the clutch engagement stuff. It's got to be around here somewhere. I don't throw anything away. This is really cool. That's some neat stuff there. If I remember right, I went on ahead and I rebuilt this engine before I took it apart. It was part of a rebuild. And I'm pretty sure that this thing's got a new piston in it and all sorts of good stuff. So we will continue on. Looks like I need to do a little cleaning up in here. I obviously welded this up, so it must have cracked or something at one time, but we'll fix it. I'm just wondering, do I have any screws in this at all? I don't think so. It looks like it's loose. I'm not sure. I'm just going to try and pull it off, but it doesn't look like it's going to come off very easy. So anyway, we'll go on ahead and look at that. This is really a cool motor. An F11 was basically, you know, kind of a short-lived bike, but the F11M was made out of an F11, and then they put some stuff together. The difference. Okay, let's clean this up a little bit. Got most of the leaves and stuff out of there. We're going to hit it with a bit of air, so it's going to get noisy. Yeah, that was a mistake. me, should have done that outside. Well. Okay, so now let's see if we can get this cover off. I'm just going to gently pry on this. I don't want to be beating on it just yet. Let's see where we are. Yeah, looking good so far. We're getting there. There we go. Little funky in here. A little bit of rust. Nothing terrible. Transmission is not moving at the moment. That's interesting. Not moving. So we're going to lube some stuff up here. We'll get it all cleaned up a little bit. Yeah, we need to, well, let's take this guy off. We can do that pretty easily. Get a 5mm. And it was not smart to leave this thing sitting out in the weather. That was just kind of stupid, you know? Oh, well, what do you do? Oh, but there we go. That came right off. You can see it's a little crusty in there, but our magneto ignition looks almost new. It looks beautiful. That's a really good thing to see. That's nice. And then I don't see a clutch rod in here, which ain't good. I've got to find all these parts. I've got them somewhere. I know I do. And I probably even have the original shifter. Yep, this thing could use a bit of cleaning. I think what I'm going to do here is probably, I'm going to seal this stuff. I'm going to lube this up a little bit so it'll break free, and then we're going to take and seal all this stuff up and give this thing a good washing because it just needs it. We don't work in filth. But so to start out with, let's just go on ahead and spray some multi-purpose penetrating lube in here. We'll just get some in here. We'll get some in the bottom. I can see this is actually I think I need to hit it with a vacuum. Now I've made a mess. Just a couple little spider webs. Let's see what we got going on here. Looks like there's some more spider webs in there. I do want to hit. Now I think what I'm going to do on this is, well, let me throw a little lube in here. Just for laughs. In here. What I think I want to do here though is I'm going to hit this with some rust remover, which I'm just going to take some of the Rust-Oleum stuff and use it because it works well on this surface rust really, really well. Then when I rinse it off, it'll just be super clean and not bad. So what I'm going to do next here is I've taken a spark plug and put it in the hole to seal it up. I've sealed up the exhaust port. I've sealed up the intake port. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab some, let me grab it, Rust-Oleum rust dissolver. And let me move this guy here and we'll aim our camera down to where we can see. And I'm just going to spray some of this stuff on places that have a little bit of rust. Now, it's not a lot of rust. As I look at it, it's really just basically on the surface, but that's all right. we'll get everything off of it we can. There's a little bit of rust on this guy, so I'll take a little brush and move things around. It's not really bad. The other side, nothing. Maybe a little rust there. Even the sprocket's in good shape. It's fine. There's a little bit of rust on the spring and a little bit of crud in there. And what we're going to do with this is once we're done, once we've got this stuff around in there, I'm going to wheel it outside and give it a good cleaning. Okay, so we're going to go on ahead now and soak this thing down with super clean. A little super clean to get the action going. Because this stuff will clean the crud off, that's for sure. Okay, the engine is clean. All traces of rust are gone. I mean, it was just surface rust. I mean, there was no metal brush or anything. All they did is just kind of wiped it around on there, and everything came out perfectly clean. Good. Well, now that the engine has been cleaned up, we now need to start disassembling it and dealing with all the things that we find. In about 1979 or 1980-ish, I rebuilt this engine. It's been sitting, but it was never started because what I was doing is I was converting it over to a right-hand shift. Now, we may go on ahead and put the left-hand shifter back in it. I don't know quite yet. But what we need to do is start tearing down the top end, see what it looks like. The engine turns over very freely. There's no problem at all with that. Right now I got a little bit of compression because there's spark plugs in there. So anyway, let's go on ahead and let's tear down the top end and let's take a look and see what we've got. So we'll start with the 13s here. Teams. Okay, so let's take a look at these guys, and they're a little rusty here. There's some rust going on in here. That'll be all cleaned up. We'll get that all cleaned up. So let's pull off the head, and it's just a little funky looking inside. It looks like there may have been a little condensation in there, but all these bolts all seem to be a little rusty. I gooped them up a little bit. I lubed them up, so hopefully everything's okay. So I won't pull the head off. I'm looking at the cylinder in here, and let's see if we can get a good shot of that in there. I think you can see. It's pretty nice and clean at this point. So let's give it a couple love taps here. See if we can't get this to come loose. Is it coming loose? Yeah, it seems to be loose. I need to... Is it coming up? Not yet. Let me see if I can... Oh, there it goes. It's coming. Well, so far so good. And there we go. Let me get this off to the side. And let's take a look here. As you can see, piston's looking pretty new. There's a little bit of dirt going on here, but the rings are fresh. I mean, when I say dirt, it's just there's some oil and it's just a little bit dark, but it's okay. It's been sitting for so many years. But as we can see, this is all just brand new. It's as clean and as nice as it could be in there. The studs are not looking that great at this point, but let me get the camera so you can see the front of the piston there. Let me see if I can, yeah, there you go. And again, everything is just like new in there. The crank is looking almost like new. The oil is it's a little dark, but it's just been sitting for so long. What do you expect? But the rings, it's still got let me see if I can get in there. The rings have still got that kind of gray material. They've never been run, so they're not even shiny yet. So, and they're nice and free, and everything is just like brand new. So that's good. So let's get this thing back to where we can see things. Yep, not bad. All right, so that means that's all good. So let's take a look at our cylinder here. And our cylinder is got fresh crosshatch patterns in it. Everything is nice. It's got one of my porting jobs in it, which is basically what I do is I relieve a little bit more at the top so that the exhaust gases can escape a little bit earlier. And then we put some of these channel ports in here. And what that does is there's exhaust gases coming up here and they're being pushed out to the side. And then these guys here have a tendency to push up and help mix those gases a little bit. But the everything else, ports are smooth and nice. The exhaust port could probably be cleaned up a little bit more. The intake port is beautiful. Everything is nice in there. Everything is all matched up and nice. It's so the cylinder is looking good. It just needs a paint job, some new gaskets, and I've got new gaskets coming. So that looks great. These studs are hokey. They look terrible. They need work. So let's go on ahead and pull the piston out of here. And if you're going to be pulling pistons and stuff like that, these pliers right here, nothing works better. I mean, they grab onto clips because it's almost a needle nose. They will grab onto a clip so tight and nice, and you don't have to worry about them flying off somewhere when you do with the regular needle nose. These things are awesome. Okay, and let's see if I can push that out without any issue. No, I need to get the other clip out. Yeah, turn this engine a little bit. Do it right-handed. Because as good as these pliers are, you still want to do them right-handed. There's that. And now I should be able to push. Yeah, there it goes. And the pin comes out. Do it by hand. Take a look at it. And here you go. Here is a nice, beautiful piston. It's just got a little oil on it. Everything is nice. No marks at all in anything. Rings are brand new. So we've got a good start on that one. Needle bearing, wrist pin bearing is brand new. It's not like brand new. It is brand new. Rod is perfect. There is almost zero play in this. There is no up and down. There's no twisting in it whatsoever. It's all kind of clean in here. So all that really needs to happen here is we've got to remove this gasket because it's just, again, it's ancient. And I got new ones on the way. And these studs need to be cleaned up. The Head bolts need to be cleaned up. They are pretty nasty. Well, we get those looking like new. And then what we're going to end up doing here is we will go on ahead and we're going to repaint the cases. The center cases will be black because that's the way the F11 was and the F11M was. Our side covers they were sand cast and then painted black, but they're polished, so we're going to repolish those, bring those to life. Okay, give them a bit of a... Oh yeah, they're already much better. These carbide gasket scrapers are dynamite. They really, really work. They're super, super square. And when you put it on a flat, you just keep them flat and they will just smooth out and take off those gaskets like nothing. They are really, they're so sharp and they really, really work well. And you got little imperfections in there, it just kind of smooths them over. It's really, really good. So now we need to clean the carbon out of this head. We've already resurfaced it, but the carbon is still in here. So here's a real nice way to do that. We take an angle grinder, and then we take a Scotch-Brite bristle pad, and I believe it says, yep, bristle pad, a Scotch-Brite bristle pad. Place it on there, get our head there, and let's see what happens. And there you have it. A very accurate way of removing carbon, and look at it, it is just beautiful. And the bristle pad is just a little bit dirty. Yeah, I didn't think this thing was tight anyway, so. Now that I think about it, and there's just a washer behind this. And the clutch can come off. And there's a small trace of rust here and there, no biggie. We'll clean all that off. We'll get it all cleaned up. And this we can pull out. Yeah, it's got a little bit of rust going on in there, so we need to... Yep. I think my... And again, a little bit of corrosion going on in there, no biggie. Then we're going to take, and there are 3 number 2 screws holding this in place. And then this guy will pop off. And there you have it. And again, just a tiny bit of surface rust that needs to be taken care of. And when we're done, this thing will be beautiful. And a lot of the painting methodology that we're going to use here is we'll get it clean, and then we'll spray it and then clean up other places. Now, if there's a place where there's a screw or a bolt or something like that, we'll pull the bolt out, spray it, and then move on with that. Now, the benefits of being a motorcycle mechanic. I do just so happen to have the correct puller. So we're going to pull it off so I can paint in there and do a nice job and get it all cleaned up and nice. All right. And there's some rust under there that needs to go away. No biggie. It pretty much wipes off with my hand here. But I'm going to put this in the lathe and make it beautiful. I'll be back. So now we've got all of this cleaned up. It's all cleaned up and nice and dry in here. There's no rust, there's no corrosion, there's no nothing. The only thing that we're going to be doing is I'm going to take a piece of PVC here and just put this here so when I spray it, I won't be having to tape all this stuff off. We can just go on ahead, spray, and get it all cleaned up nice. And this is a brand new seal, so we don't want to be painting on that because that looks like crap. What we're going to be using here is SEM Trim Black. There is no better paint for doing trim. This stuff is tough. It works great on engines. Two-stroke engine does not get hot in this area. It's not like a four-stroke. The only places that they really get hot is right in the cylinder head. The cylinders themselves get warm, but it's not bad. So first things first, we're gonna spray a little bit in. We don't want to do anything heavy. We just want to take this, hold this up against there, and just give it a squirt. Let me do a quick test here, though. Take a little board that I use for testing stuff. Oh yeah, perfect. Just want to make sure that we're not getting any weird sprays or anything like that. So we're just going to go on ahead and give this a quick shot. And when this stuff dries, it is just perfect. It really is. And that's it. That's all we need to do. Very little. That's actually too much, actually, but that's okay. And as you can see, we didn't get our shaft or anything terrible. I can take and wipe off any excess that came with this. Right there. Nothing fancy. And when that dries, it'll be perfect in there. Really, really nice. And another thing to do is keep a little paintbrush. Now this is a steel, this is a steel top, so I can just spray on that. And if I need to add a little touch up here and there, I can. Any place that looks like it needs a little, that's going to be hard to get to, we'll just use a brush. Make sure that everything is covered nicely. This is really good paint. And I didn't prep it very well, but it's okay. When it dries, it'll be just as nice as it gets. It is the perfect kind of color. And I guess while we're at it here, grab a paper towel here, and I'm going to take a little bit of acetone, well, yeah, some lacquer thinner, I guess, and I'll just wipe off some of this, and we might just give it a coat of paint while we're here. Nice little prep first, doesn't hurt. And we're just doing one little piece at a time, no biggie. We're not going to make a big mess, we're not spraying too much, we're just going to spray a little bit. And I think what I'll do here, we're going to give this a quick light coat, and then we'll let that set up a few seconds, and then we'll give it a bit more. That way it bonds really nicely. And I'm just being very careful not to make a big mess, not splattering all over everything. You just want to get some paint on it. And we're done. That's all it needed. Let's see here. Let's see if I can't get this guy. Let's get our drain plug out, if nothing else. All cleaned up and nice. And we'll just give it a quick shot. This doesn't need much paint, obviously, because you can see it's just almost there. We just need to get a little bit of paint on the bottom. There's a couple screws in there, but I'm going to pull those out anyway. Well, I don't know if you can see, but this is dry now, and it has got the perfect satin finish that we need to make this look right. Trim black has a regular trim black, and it's a little bit flatter than this, but this is about the same amount of shine that the original engine cases had. So it is going to be just about perfect. And we'll go on ahead and start getting the rest of this. I think I'll move this over to, I have just gone on ahead and given my ramp a coat of paint, and it was drying all day yesterday, and it's finally dry now. But it looks a little better, it's cleaner and nicer. So what I have here is an old office chair that I put a plate on, and then I've got this is an old piece of counter. And now I have a way to be able to turn things around, work on it without making too much of a mess. And that way if I spray, I don't have to do too much masking. So I will continue on with getting this bad boy looking perfect. Right. Let's start with this. And we use our So as you can see, our engine is completely painted. It looks great. This particular color is just perfect. We got it painted all the way around. It's going to look great. Everything is nice. So we can start assembling this engine. So I have decided to use our left-hand shift. So the first thing we need to do is, and this thing is in beautiful condition, like everything, is we need to get our shifter in place. The spring is on it. There's a space. The spring is on it, and the spacer is in there. And all that you need to do with this is just slide it into place and get it over the top. We're going to be putting on our shift linkage, and the F11 is very, very strange. Usually this is all on the shifter itself, but this thing has this kind of weird, I need to put a drop of oil here, this kind of weird crossover thingy, but it's easy enough. Put this on, just slide this over, and just get it. It takes a little bit to line it up. There it goes. And it just does this, and then you just, with another drop of oil, then you just put this guy on here, and then there's a circlip that goes on top of that. And we take the world's best pliers and snap it on. And there's that. And I believe I think this is the right one here. Let's see if we get the right one for this. Yeah. Get that one on. There's a circlip here. Snaps into place. And we're good to go. Okay, so that's all there is to that. Everything is in place. The next thing we need to do is, this is our Kickstarter. Like everything else on here, everything is just beautiful and perfect. Give it a drop of oil in there. I mean, it'll get oil eventually, but it's just better to do it this way. We'll get this guy, get him in, and then he should back out, and the neck can spin freely. Okay, to put this clutch together, we start out with a washer in the back. They're up against the bearing. Then we have a sleeve, and this has already been pre-oiled. I got oil in here, and then you take this idler gear, and well, this is the idler gear, this is the clutch engagement gear, and you take that, you put it on, and this is how the Kickstarter engages the clutch. So now you take this guy and you just slide him on, and it won't go all the way on. If you're lucky, it goes on. You got a 1 in 50 chance that it does, but you push this on, put a little pressure against it, and then all you got to do is rotate this gear, and the clutch will pop in. That means it's engaged. Then you can put the next big washer on there. And I got some over here. I'm going to put a drop of oil on both sides of it just for laughs. And then there's I need to bend our little tang on our retainer here. You just got to bend it in a little bit. It had gotten bent back out. Okay, so now you put your clutch hub on. Okay, everything spins nice. Everything is nice and loose. This is a bend over washer, and all you got to do is you just put this on. And I got to spin it on. It's got a little thing on it, and there is a you need to make sure that where the there's a tang that sticks into it, and there's 6 holes in there for it to go into. And all you got to do is, once you've done that, you can then take the nut, which I've got in here, put the nut on, and make sure that the washer is still engaged into the hole. Then all you got to do is go on ahead and tighten it. And when it's tight, then you can go on ahead and bend over the washer so the nut doesn't come loose. And that's all it is. And the clutch is, at least this part is done. Now we got some brand new clutch plates here. And so I'm going to use these. Yeah, these are new. And we'll start building up the clutch. So to assemble a clutch, it's fairly simple. This is a brand new plate, but you do not need to soak these overnight. Whoever, that used to be, because like the old Barnett clutches would be so grabby. If you didn't soak them overnight, the things would just stick together and weld themselves together. Nowhere ever in any service manual that I've seen anyway, do you need to soak these overnight. You just need to put some oil on them. That is one thing you should do. And you just take a little bit of oil. There's just some plain old 1030 in that. And on some clutches, you have to make sure now that whether a steel plate or a fiber plate, if there's a place for the clutch for this to sit, it's a fiber plate. Sometimes there isn't. It'll just be a place to hook on to a steel plate. So that would be a steel plate. But in this case, it's a fiber plate first. So you just put this guy in there. And then this particular clutch has got some rings in it to separate the steel plate so the clutch doesn't want to stick. And then the steel plates go in, and there's 2 sides to a steel plate. There's a sharper edge, and then there's a rounded over edge. And the rounded over edge always goes to the inside. And that I have seen in service manuals. So we'll just get some oil on this bad boy. And a little oil on this side. And we'll just go on ahead and move it, swipe it around so it's got oil, and that's all it needs. And then we can go on ahead and put another one of our little spacer thingies in there. And we'll grab another clutch plate, and we'll feel which side, the sharp side and the dull and the rounded over side. Rounded over side goes that way. It's not a big deal if you do get it wrong. It's just, that's what they tell you to do, and that's how they come from the factory. Okay, and now all our plates are in. We need to put a little top hat in, like that. And then we're going to be putting on our clutch basket here, or our pressure plate, excuse me. And so this thing has an alignment on it, and you have to get it right. And there's a mark right here, and there's a little mark right here, and you just need to make sure those 2 line up. And that puts our clutch into a good position. One more plate. I got another plate going in. And then we align our guys up. All right, so now our clutch is all put together. And now we've got these cups. These are our spring cups. And I have a new set of springs here. And with our springs in place, we just start putting in these guys, and you just get them started, put them all in, and then once they're in, you can just snug them down. Nothing too fancy. And we'll get all the rest of them in, but that and I'll snug them down. And then we'll just go on ahead and snug these bad boys down. And so now that our clutch is all together, so let's go on ahead and put our ignition back on. I put all the bolts back in there. You need to see that. But I'll get this guy in there. And we don't want to put on the nut until we put on the actual ignition plate. And the reason for that is you got to get the points over the top of that. So here's our ignition. It's fared pretty well through all of this. And it's quite simple. It only goes on in the one way actually here. So you just put this on, and then we'll get some screws in there. Let me get this kind of in there. Okay, and there's a little mark right there to line everything up. Let's see if I can get this to move on there. Got a really strong magnet on it. There we go. Now we can take this and we'll get this snug down. And I'll go get some screws. We'll put that together. And this guy is going to end up coming out here. We got to come up with a grommet of some form, but cool. Okay. And we'll be setting the timing a little bit later, but we'll be doing that with the dial indicator, and we'll go through that. But for right now, we just need to get this guy on there. And we'll get this guy tightened up. Perfect. Okay, I'll come up with a grommet for that, but a nice long piece of wire on there, all ready to go. But everything is nice and in good shape. And the points actually open and close like they should. Everything is. So continuing on, we want to get our cylinder all cleaned up and get some paint on it, or some fresh paint on it. And I'm just going to use a wire brush, and this will help me get in between the fins. Okay, now that the cylinder's all clean, to get the look we want, we're going to use some caliper paint. And the reason I'm using caliper paint is, first of all, it's 900 degrees, and it'll give us the right amount of shine that we want. We don't want it to be super shiny, but we do want it to have a little bit of a sheen. And we don't need to get crazy here because the cylinder is actually painted pretty well. But we're just gonna hit it, and we will, any surfaces that need to be cleaned off again, we can. We're gonna get a nice look out of this. Again, this paint that's on here is already in not bad shape. We don't mind about the edges because we are going to polish them up a little bit. And I just threw a couple old spark plugs in there to get it, protect the thread so I don't have to clean them all out later. And again, remember this head is already got good paint on it for the most part. Just on the outsides a little bit that need a little bit of extra care. So while we're waiting for our paint to dry, let's install our piston. This is a new piston. It is ready to go. The rings are all perfect. They're brand new. So what you want to do first is you need to get the circlips in. Well, one of the things that happens is if you're putting in circlips, you can drop them into the engine. So I'm going to aim down at the engine here. And first things first, we'll grab a pair of pliers, and these are what I consider the world's best pliers, and especially for doing a job like this. So what we have is a circlip, and what you want to do is before you, don't try to put both of them in when it's in the engine. When one of them's out, it's the easiest time. So we're going to take this, we're going to squeeze it together. We'll get it put into place and make sure it snaps into place, which it has not yet. And we'll get this to snap into place. And that's snapped into place. Now, here's something that a lot of people don't really mention, is that the gap for the circlip should either be at the 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock position. So when the piston's going up and down real fast, it doesn't have a tendency to be able to try and pop that out. Just a little fact there. So the next thing you want to do is you've got your roller bearing for your crank. And what you want to do is get a little oil in there, or you don't really need to have assembly lube. This is not a high, it's not a big deal, but a few drops of oil just to get it right. Then the next thing you do is there's always an arrow on the piston, and that is always toward the front of the engine. Doesn't matter if it's a car, bike, anything, that arrow will always be toward the front of the engine. And in this case, all that we're going to do is put it in the middle, and I'm going to slide this bad boy in all the way. Okay, so now what you want to do is you want to take a rag and you want to put it underneath the piston. Now the rag is, the only reason for the rag is if you do drop the circlip, it doesn't fall in the engine. It makes your life a little bit easier. Okay, so then you take your other circlip and we'll turn the engine this way. Our piston pin is pushed in all the way. And then we're going to, again, making sure that we're either at 6 o'clock or 12 o'clock. We'll put in we got our circlip, and put it in, slide it into place, snap it, and that is done. And now the next thing we need to do before we put on the cylinder, I'm waiting for the paint to dry, but there are, if you look, let's see if I can turn this around where you can see. I should have done this, showed you before. On a two-stroke, there's something called knock pins in there. And if you look right here, there's a pin here and there's a pin here. And what these guys do is they keep the rings where they need to be. The rings can't rotate on a two-stroke, and the reason for that is because if the rings rotate, they will get caught in the ports. So what these do is keep it on both sides of the above the intake port, and they just keep the ring from falling into the transfers or the exhaust. Believe me, if they aren't in the knock pins, first of all, you won't get the cylinder on because those knock pins are sticking out and you can't push the ring in. But so that you need to be aware of that. But if you try to force it, or somebody does something stupid and pushes those knock pins out because they are drilled all the way through, you will find that it makes a mess out of the engine. The engine is done the first time that goes. The ring just catches and boom, it just blows up. So just be aware of that stuff. So this is ready for the cylinder. We're going to do one final cleaning on both the cylinder and the base here. We'll put a new gasket in it and we'll drop the cylinder on. Okay, so we're now ready to go on ahead and assemble our top end on this. We've got our circlips in. Here's a little hint though. I've got a little bit of grease on my finger, and what you want to do is put some grease on these studs. A thin coat. You don't want it to be built up. And what this does is it will prevent rust in the future, and the next poor slob that has to go work on this won't have rusted studs. And anybody who's has dealt with rusted studs where the cylinder's on there, you do not want to go down that path. So a little bit of grease goes a long way. We don't want enough to where it gets on any gasket surfaces or anything like that. You just want to make sure that you've got some grease on it. Okay, now we got a brand new base gasket, and it only goes on, it can go on one of two ways, obviously. You can turn it over, but, and we'll just go on ahead and put this guy on. Okay. Our surfaces have been cleaned. Whoops, I just have it on backwards. Okay, let's put that on right. I'm more concerned about talking to the camera than the work I'm doing. All right, so our base gasket's on. Make sure it's all there. Everything's been cleaned. Our knock pins you need to make sure that they are in place before you get started. And then our cylinder is sanitary. I mean, it is completely spotless. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a tiny bit of oil, and I'm just going to put some on my finger, just a little bit on my finger, and I'm going to give this just a nice light coat. And you can see it's so clean. I mean, even with the oil on there, it's just completely sanitary. And we'll do this. And you don't want a lot of oil in there. If you do, first of all, you can have a tendency to foul out your plugs. But it's very, very important to understand something. Two strokes, especially when you're first putting them together and the rings are brand new, need to seat those rings pretty much instantly. And if you get too thick of an oil or something on there, the rings don't want to seat in properly. So we're just going to go on ahead and just put this a tiny bit of little oil on everything. It's just a thinnest coat. This way it's got oil, but it is not, it's almost like the engine is naturally oiled with it. Okay, rings are in place, whatever. So now it's time to go on ahead and put the cylinder on. I don't know the best position to show you this, but I think probably from the back might be the best. So what you want to do here is now you got your cylinder all cleaned up and nice and ready to go. There's a camphor in here, all right? This is all clean. Make sure your base gaskets are all clean and perfect. You can see there's no remnants of anything on there. And so what you want to do is just get your cylinder and you get your knock pin lined up, squeeze the ring in to where it's almost into the knock pin, and just kind of wobble the cylinder on there. And make sure that you get the second one within the knock pin. And you can just work it back and forth a little bit. And the next thing you know, it's on. And your cylinder is in. It's just that simple. Get the knock pins lined up, squeeze them, and just work the cylinder gently, and it just goes right on. Now, we're all cleaned up there. We get our head gasket ready. The one thing that you have to understand, the F11M has a much thinner head gasket than the F11. All the other gaskets are the same, but the head gasket is different. So you do want to make sure of that. And make sure your head gasket sits on there in its proper position. And now we can put on our head. We'll lay that there. And we're going to take our, I've cleaned up all the head bolts so that the zinc is looking nice again. Okay. Then we will take, and there's 4 more head bolts in there. So these are going to get torqued to 22 and these will get torqued to 16. But for now, we're just going to run them down. We'll do a final torque later. Okay, so all our head bolts are in place. Just snug, that's fine. Just enough to where you don't have to go do a lot of work to get them down. These are 13s. Okay, so there's that. And we're going to go on ahead and set up our torque wrench to 22 foot-pounds. Now, that on there, and we just go crisscross our way into getting these tight. And I'm going to snug them down a little more than I had first before I go to the final torque. All right, so here we go. 22 foot-pounds. Okay, there it goes. And there we go. All 4 of them are down to 22 foot-pounds. And we'll set this for 16. And that 22 is what it, and we want these back at foot-pounds. Okay. And 16. And away we go. And we'll just do the front one first. And that's all there is to the top end. It is done, it is torqued, it is ready to go. This bike will be just dynamite to whoever does something with it next. It may be me, I may sell it, I don't know. But It's in wonderful shape. I've gone over the fins, made them all look good. It's got a nice fresh coat of paint on it. Everything's got nice fresh paint and it'll last for years because that caliper paint that I put on here is some tough stuff. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is get this, we got to verify our timing marks on this. So what we want to do is there's a F mark on here and there's a mark on here, and we want to make sure that it's exactly where it needs to be because you can adjust it a little bit here and you can rotate this around. But the idea here is to get those marks lined up for future reference. So if these marks are all lined up, this thing should be at exactly 2.56 or 2.6 millimeters. So the first thing we need to do is get it to top dead center. And you just take a piece of plastic or something like this, something you can put down in a screwdriver, and just roll the engine back and forth a little bit. And we'll do it this way until you can kind of feel it stop. And you're close. All right. Now, once you've done that, then you take a dial indicator, and excuse the Yamaha for you Kawasaki guys, and we just screw that in. There's nothing more than this thing just screws in. And then what we're going to do here is we're going to go on ahead, and I'm just going to kind of hold this with my hand, and I'm going to see if I can get real close to top dead center. And you can see right there it's changing directions. So that means the piston comes up and then it goes back down, up and then down, up and then down. So we get it right there. So that's really close to top dead center. Then we'll put our dial indicator. We'll take our dial indicator and we're going to run it up till it's about there. Doesn't really matter. We'll just get it down a little bit. So it's right about there. And then we'll take our adjustment. Got to just get this thing to settle. And there's 0 right there. And we'll check our top dead center. Goes here. Yeah. So we're at top dead center. And so now what we want to do is we're going to roll this back. And I'm going to turn the engine backwards. The engine turns this way. So we want to get it 2.56, 2.6 millimeters before top dead center. So we're going to go back 1. There's 1 whole lap. There's 1 millimeter. Here is 2 millimeters. And here is 2.56, right about there. Now what we need to do is look and check our timing mark. And I'm going to go in here. Actually, I'm going to take this and we're going to take a nice close look and see what we got. And if you look right here, you're going to see a mark. And if you look right here on the actual stator itself, you're going to see it lines up perfectly with that. So we're at 2.56. On this bike, there's a mark right here, and there's also a mark on the case. So you do that, you check this, and our timing marks are perfect. So that means that we can adjust our points so that as soon as it hits this mark right here, that's when they need to brake. So that's what we're going to do. But this, we have verified our timing marks. And now if we're, if the bike's out in the field and you need to do something with the point or something fails with the point, you need to put a new set on, you can use the timing marks. You don't have to have a dial indicator each and every time. So the next thing we want to do is we want to get the points to open exactly when our timing mark hits. So what we're going to do here is we've got a point checker, and I've hooked the one side to the one side of the points and the other side to ground. And we will then turn the engine over until we see that meter move. And there it is, right there. That's where they close and open. You can see it pop open. And then I have to look at the timing mark, and I don't know if you can see it, but I can see that the timing mark is up here on the rotor, and here's where it needs a line to. So what we need to do is, this is a little too far advanced because it's opening too soon. So what we need to do is loosen up our points and close it down a little bit. Now, the best way to do this is to get the timing mark lined up perfectly. And I don't know if you can see that, but I'll get a good angle. And there it is, right about there. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to close down these points a little bit so that it will just barely, you see it's kind of moving around over there? That's what's happening. And I'm going to tighten up these points and see what happens here. And this is the issue with a lot of points, is that when you tighten down the screw, it changes. So here we go. And now, yeah, we're a little late. So we need to go just a little bit more, a little earlier. So we'll loosen these up just ever so slightly. And then we're going to rotate this just till it just starts to kind of tweak open. Come on, you can do this. Yeah. Whoop. I was touching the connector. That doesn't help. There you go, right there. And we'll hit that. Tighten it down. Okay. And let's see how we did. And almost there. And that just popped open. And our timing mark is perfect. Our points are tight. It is all timed. It is relatively simple to do. What you're doing here is you get your timing marks lined up so you can use them, and then you open and close the points until the timing is perfect, which seems a little bit different than like a car or something like that, but this is designed so you can do that. Most motorcycles with a magneto ignition, you adjust the points to get the timing right. Now, the next thing we need to do is just go on ahead, rotate the engine until the points are all the way up on the cam, and check. Now, these need to be about somewhere between 15 and 20. And these are right about just at 18. And this feeler gauge is meant for points, and it gives you a lot more feel than on some long thing. So it's right at about 18, and that's about where we want it. It's just enough to get it. You can see it do its thing. So now they're adjusted at 18. Our timing is perfect. We are done in here. So the next thing we need to do is get our clutch mechanism going. So the first thing is get a little bit of grease. I got some good Mobil 1 synthetic grease. We need to get some on these teeth. And then we need to have a little bit of grease on this guy, and the rest of it we'll just get right into our engagement mechanism. Just a little grease just doesn't hurt things. Okay, next is, so to assemble this is fairly simple. The first thing you do have to do is you got to get this clutch rod into the mechanism and point it basically in the right direction. Then you take this, and it doesn't matter, there's no special timing on it, you just need to get this guy in there. And you can see it goes in really nice and easy. It moves really easy with my fingers. Then there's a screw, and this screw has got a little cutaway in it so that it can index into this shaft so it doesn't go anywhere. So you get it started, and there you go. Get it a little tricky to get it started for some weird reason. There it goes. Then you got to kind of work it up and down until you can put it all the way in with your fingers. And then just tighten it down. Okay? And this works really nice and well with your fingers. Next, what you need to do is, we have a little grease on there. Make sure that's okay. We need to put our gasket If I can find it. What do I do with it? Amazing how I can put things into a black hole. Oh, there it is. Okay, so we put our gasket in here. I've got a fresh new rubber grommet for the wire coming out, and there's a bunch of wire on it for whoever does whatever. They're going to have what they need. And so now this guy goes here like that. So what we'll do is we'll get this guy basically into position. We get a couple screws going in here. Oh, here they are. Here's this guy, and I'll put another screw at the top of this just to hold the gasket in place. And now what you need to do is you need to get the clutch rod pushed into the seal and then get your screws started. And we'll get all 4 of those in. And we'll just go on ahead and tighten things down. Okay. And our case is on. Then what you need to do is we need to put this guy on. He's the, this is where the cable attaches to. And so you just kind of just work him where you want him. And it's pretty much around, let's get this pushed in as much as we can. And then he just kind of goes on here. There he goes. And you got to kind of figure out where you want it. Maybe 1 tooth more, maybe. It depends on what cable you put in here. So this is, you know, if the cable's long, you can move it either way. And then we take and we have a nice bolt that goes in the top that holds it. And we'll tighten that guy down. And it pinches in there. All right. And so to check that, let's take a big wrench. See if a 19 will do it. No. I'll get a wrench. So to make sure everything is working, we'll give this a road. Whoop. Let me get this case off of here so you can see. To get the angle better. We'll take this case off because it's just kind of sitting on there protecting things. Maybe. Yeah, here it comes. All right, so now what we're going to do here is watch this. I'm going to take this and I'm going to engage the clutch. And now watch the pressure plate. See it move in and out? And that is how our clutch actuates. Very, very simply. It relieves the pressure from all those plates, and this is really, really smooth. So that is how this case goes on. And wires in the way, but everything is all done. Clutch is ready to be, is actuating. And in fact, I could probably do that with my fingers. Well, that's all right. And we'll get this case on, then we'll put the other side on. Okay, so now we'll go on ahead and get our countershaft sprocket cover on. This is fairly easy. Just there's no gasket, no nothing. Just a couple 3 screws. A long one in the back. And another one in the bottom. And just like that, this side is completely done. The only thing that we might need to do is put a vent tube on this going wherever. But so now what we're going to end up doing is putting on the other side, and we will be basically done with this engine. So the next thing we're going to do before we put on this case, everything has all been cleaned up, everything is ready to go, everything is nice. What we want to do is we want to take and get the gasket so it stays with the case. So if you have to pull it off when you're out there doing whatever you're doing, that the gasket will stay with the case and not on there. That way you can pull it off, do whatever work you have to do, and be able to put it back on. So what we're going to use is gasket cinch. And this stuff is kind of like a very, very weak contact cement in essence. It's been around for probably over 100 years. It is a very, very good way to deal with gaskets that is very non-permanent. If you need to pull it off and get the gasket off, you can. It just doesn't do anything. It's clear, so you can see it's going on very nicely. And you just put a little bit on here. And we'll do the same thing with the gasket. The surface is clean, it's just a little stained. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we can take the gasket and we make sure the way it goes, and we'll just take a little bit of this gasket cinch. Get it so we can not making a mess, and we'll just give this a quick coat. Nothing fancy, just a little bit of okay, and we'll let that dry a little bit. That's it right there. We'll let it dry just for a minute or two. And then all we have to do here is take this and we'll just put it right on where our gasket needs to go. Line up the holes the way you need to. Take this, and everything lines up perfect. And again, we're not gluing to the engine. Okay. Nice, all clean and nice. Not a big mess. Okay, we've got our inside here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's the spacer that goes for the Kickstarter. Our shifter is all in place. Everything is nice. So all that we have to do is just take this guy and slide it on. Get it, push on there. There it goes. And it's in place, and we'll start putting in our screws. Here. Next. Next. So we'll just run these guys down. And there you have it. This side is all put together. We need just to put on the Kickstarter, but the engine is basically together. And lastly, we'll put on our Kickstarter. Right about there should be good. Bolt. That'll crank down in there. nice and tight. Perfect. And there you have it. One complete F11M engine. And there you have it. One complete F11M engine. Let's take a look at it here on our little stand. We can rotate around. It just came out absolutely gorgeous. You can see the cases are polished, and they didn't come that way. They came black. And the thing is that if somebody is going to use this to do a restoration on an F11M, all the parts are here. They can paint these black, and it's super simple. Or if they're going to use it in a project bike, even myself using it in a project bike, I like them polished. So it's up to whoever gets the engine, whoever's going to use the engine, what they want to do. What you have here is a complete F11M, and these are unobtainium, 100%. You can't find parts or anything for them. And this thing just came out gorgeous. Got the regular racing mag in it. The clutch is all perfect. All this stuff is in relatively good shape. It's not a perfect engine, but it's darn close. The cylinder has been bored to 0.5 over, but it is what it is. This case has been modified in here because the way it fit in the frame. It's just a little tiny piece of it cut out, just maybe a 1/4 inch. This is perfectly stock, in perfectly good condition. This is stock. There's nothing modified on it. It had a break in here. It's all been welded properly, so it's, just for full disclosure what this engine is. The top end is brand new. Piston, crank, or at least connecting rod, rings, everything is brand spanking new. It had a fresh bore job on it. It has not been run at all with that. The transmission and everything is basically all stock. The clutch has got new plates in it. It's just all in good shape. It is set up so you can either do a right-hand or left-hand shifter. I've got another shifter that goes along with it, and whoever buys this or whoever gets it can have that shifter, so they can have either one. But there it is in all its glory, and I'm very pleased with the way that came out. So there you have it. Our complete F11M engine. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time here on GearHeadGeeks.